Most people think of retirement as one long vacation. But what if I told you there are actually 4 distinct phases in retirement? And if you know about these ahead of time, you're going to want to skip one of these altogether. Today, we're going to outline Dr. Riley Moynes' research on the 4 phases of retirement, why most retirees get blindsided by this, and how to skip the dark and depressing phase altogether so you can get the most out of your retirement. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 97 of the Planning for Retirement podcast. My name is Kevin Lau. I am your host. I'm also the owner at Imagine Financial Security. We help individuals over 50 maximize their retirement income, minimize their lifetime tax bill, and worry less about money. If that describes you, make sure to follow the podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out weekly retirement-related content specifically designed for you. So we spent a lot of time on this podcast, on the YouTube channel, talking about retirement readiness from a financial aspect. Do you have enough money saved? Which accounts do you tap into first? What's a safe rate of withdrawal? How do you hedge market risk? And how do you maximize tax efficiency? All of these are important, okay? But most people, from my experience as well, most people underestimate the emotional and psychological challenges that they're going to face in retirement, okay? And I was randomly on YouTube very recently and stumbled upon Dr. Riley Moynes' TED Talk. And Dr. Riley Moynes, I did a little research on him. He's spent a little time in public service as a teacher and then founded a wealth management company in Canada and is now an author and a speaker. And he talks about this concept of the 4 phases of retirement. And he ended up doing some research on this where he interviewed, I believe, hundreds of retirees on this exact question. How can you squeeze all of the juice out of your retirement? And it resonated with me because we have talked a lot about purpose in retirement in the past. In fact, we dedicated an entire episode to this, episode number 61. Our very own Roberto Fortuna was on that one. It was called The Benefits of Working in Retirement. And really, we did dive into this idea around purpose and really thinking about this, being introspective as you approach a retirement, not just thinking about, hey, am I okay financially, but how am I going to fill my time? What is going to get me out of bed in the morning for a 25, 30, or even 40-year time horizon? Okay. But truthfully, as I thought a little bit more about this perspective, this introspective exercise, this thought exercise should not begin in retirement. Okay. And I think that's the reason many retirees go through phase 2, and we're going to talk about phase 2, and ultimately, get stuck potentially in this phase is they don't think about this purpose question enough. So we're going to walk through these 4 phases. And then I want to talk about someone who is a perfect example. Okay. Of skipping the dark phase, and going straight into phase 3 and 4. So I'm super excited to talk about this one today. Why don't we jump into it and start with the 4 phases of retirement? So the first phase that Dr. Moynes describes is what he calls the vacation phase. I call this the honeymoon phase. Call it whatever you want to call it. But think about it. You fired your boss. You have complete freedom of your time. You most likely have no routine. Maybe you've got, your weekly golf game or tennis match or pickleball match, whatever it might be, but you're feeling great. You're feeling excited. You can now do what you want to do when you want to do it. And a large majority of our clients are either in this phase or right about to enter this phase. And they're having a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement. There's definitely some anxiety, some anxiousness as they approach that phase. But certainly the ones that are in this vacation phase, phase 1, they're having a lot of fun. They're taking a lot of trips. They're checking off their bucket list travel. They're hitting their bucket list golf trips, right? And Dr. Moynes, he estimates that this lasts about a year. I think it depends. I've definitely talked to folks that are in the vacation phase and they've been there for the last 10 years. So, I think to each their own. I think it kind of depends. Some people are literally born to travel and have that freedom and want to explore, and they can be in that phase for their entire retirement. So I'm not saying this is everybody, but I do believe it's embedded inside of all of us deeply that makes us ask the question, is this all there is? Am I using the gifts I've been given to make an impact while I'm still on this planet? And therefore, you enter into phase 2. Once you begin asking these questions and you sort of think, hey, should I be doing something more? Is this all that life or retirement has to offer me? Then you enter phase 2, which he describes as the loss phase. In the loss phase, he describes losing the big 5: routine, identity, relationships, purpose, and power. Now, not all of us are famous athletes, but I want to look at one example on this one. Look at Michael Phelps. He's the most decorated Olympian in history with 23 gold medals. Gosh, I miss Michael Phelps. I miss watching him in the Olympics. I mean, his intensity, his competitiveness, his drive, and obviously his ability, unbelievable. There's never been like anyone I've seen personally in the Olympics, but maybe Usain Bolt, but that's a different sport there. But after he left swimming, he claimed he felt empty. He lacked motivation. He isolated himself. He was abusing substances. And I pulled a few quotes from some interviews that he had, and I'm going to just read a few of these about the struggle. Okay. First one is, I've struggled with depression, with my own mental health, and I've had to fight for it. You just have to stay with it. Here's another one. When I stopped swimming after the 2012 Olympics, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I felt empty. Here's another one. I just kind of hit a wall. Everything I'd been working toward for so long was gone. I didn't know who I was without swimming. He then sought professional help. And I'm going to read some of the quotes that he said about getting professional help after he hit that phase of realization of, is this all? Is this it? Right? Here's one. Therapy changed my life. If I hadn't sought help, I wouldn't be here today. Here's another one. I thought I could deal with it on my own. And I learned the hard way that talking to someone is okay, even for Olympians. Now I focus on family, advocacy, and helping others understand mental health. That's what keeps me going. Okay. And just another one as he's transitioning out. Swimming gave me structure, purpose, and identity. After retirement, I had to find those things elsewhere. Obviously, none of us are Michael Phelps. None of us will be Michael Phelps. There will never be another Michael Phelps. Now, obviously, there's some great swimmers out there today, but there's never going to be another Michael Phelps. But we are all human beings. And as human beings, it's very natural to feel that loss after turning the page, going from something maybe you were great at into something that's unknown. After a successful career, entering into this world of freedom and leisure, and maybe feeling a little bit lost. So Dr. Moynes also talks about the 3 Ds in phase 2. Okay. And they're probably directly related, but the first D is divorce. The second D is depression. And the third D is decline. Now, decline, whether it's physical, cognitive, not all of that's under our control. Okay. No one can control 100% how their health is going to play out over the next 15, 20, 30 years in retirement. But depression, divorce, I do believe this is that loss of identity. There are many couples that I see personally in my practice doing financial planning where their kids, raising kids, kept them together for 25, 30, 35 years. And then after the kids leave the house, they don't have an identity as a couple anymore. Maybe there's some depression because they were the man. They were the go-to person. They were the woman at their company, in their businesses, right? In their careers. And now they are not needed. They are not wanted anymore because they're retired and they're losing those relationships. Okay. Not all people, but the ones who thrive in retirement all hit a wall, just like Michael Phelps. And they say enough is enough. And that's when they transition into phase 3. So phase 3, Dr. Moynes describes this as the trial and error. This is what he calls the pivot points, trying new things, asking what gives my life meaning again. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about a story about someone, a football player, football coach, and then broadcaster who is a legend in college football. Many of you know who I'm going to be talking about here, Lee Corso, where he just retired at the age of 90 a few weeks ago. And I was thinking a lot about his retirement at the beginning of the college football season because I grew up ever since I was a little kid. When I watched college football, college game day on Saturdays, Lee Corso was on there. Okay. But Lee Corso, for those of you that don't know who Lee Corso is, he's 90 years old, like I said, and just retired after week 1 of the college football season this year. But he was a football player, baseball player. He actually was drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers to play shortstop way back in the day, right out of high school for a $5,000 signing bonus, which, you do the math in terms of what inflation that would look like today. Probably a nice chunk of change. But instead, he chose college instead, went to Florida State. Okay. And randomly, I just found this in my research. He roomed with Burt Reynolds. So kind of cool. Burt Reynolds actually played football at Florida State as well. and Lee Corso played at Florida State from 1953 to 1957. He played quarterback and cornerback, and actually set the record at Florida State for the most interceptions over the course of his career, 14, and that stood for 2 decades. In 1959, after his college career was over, after his playing career was over, he got into coaching. Okay. He actually coached under his former head coach at Maryland, Tommy Nugent. Then he went to Naval Academy. Then he went to Louisville, Indiana, Northern Illinois, and then finished his career 1 year in the USFL, which is like the semi-pro league, Orlando Renegades, in 1985. Okay. But the league was shut down. So from 1953 to 1985, okay, over 30 years, he was involved with college football in some way, shape, or form. College football or semi-pro. Okay. In 1985, he was 50 years old. And he was basically retired at that point in time. Well, 2 years later, 1987, he gets a gig for ESPN as a game day analyst. Okay. But I'm going to ask all of you diehard football fans, or even casuals that may know who Lee Corso is, what is he most famous for? The answer is very simple. It's his headgear selection pick on every Saturday, every college game day, the final pick. Okay. All the experts, they make their picks in terms of who's going to win each game, and college game day, the setting is always at the game of the week. Okay. So whatever the biggest game of the week is, that's where they are. Okay. Usually it's 4 or 5 broadcasters there. And Lee Corso is always the final one to make the pick for the game of the week. And he puts on the headgear of whatever team he thinks is going to win. That's what he's been known for. Okay. And that was in 1993. He began to do this. He was nearly 58 years old when he started the headgear bit. And that ran all the way through 2025 until his age 90, when he officially retired this year. So I think I bring this up in phase 3 because Lee Corso avoided the pain of phase 2 because he just kept on moving. He kept on moving into phase 3, into phase 4, finding new meaning, finding ways he can contribute to society, finding new identity even. And his purpose wasn't even just football. It was entertainment. It was educating. It was inspiring fans. He became bigger than football itself, than his profession itself. And so in phase 3, Dr. Moynes urges you to think about, what do you love to do and what do you do well? My interpretation is, what are the gifts that you've been blessed with? What are the gifts that you've been given? And how can you use those gifts to make an impact? All right. The reason must be compelling enough to get you out of bed in the morning. Okay. If not, you risk falling back into phase 2. Okay. Which would be a dangerous place to go back to. But now we move on to phase 4. So phase 3, you begin to find and explore that new identity. What is that purpose? And then phase 4 is what he calls reinvent and rewire. Answering those big questions. What is my mission? What's my purpose? Right? In Moynes' research, Dr. Moynes' research, this almost always involves service, contribution, mentoring, or charity. The most fulfilled retirees that make it to phase 4 are doing those things. And I would 100% agree with this. The ones that we serve that are past that honeymoon phase, they're now well into their 70s, even some into their 80s. Okay. I think about this one couple, full of energy, full of life. They're now in their 80s. I think they feel just as much, if not more purpose now than they ever have in their life because of the mission-driven work that they're doing, because of getting involved with charitable organizations, charitable causes that are really, really meaningful to them. So I would agree that Dr. Moynes' research is absolutely correct. Doing something to make an impact and having meaning and purpose, that is the ideal retirement. It's not about how much money you're going to die with. It's not much how little taxes you can pay over the course of your lifetime. Obviously, those things are important. And by having those things, reducing your lifetime tax bill, maximizing your retirement income, maximizing your investment portfolio, you can have more freedom to do these things and explore, okay, in phase 3, in phase 4. But I would ask you to think about this, PFR Nation. What do you love to do? And what do you love to do well? Who could benefit from the skills that you have, from the knowledge that you have, or experiences, okay? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Or thinking about in retirement when you're no longer doing your current job, what will get you out of bed in the morning? Okay. But you got to think about this. Being financially independent allows for you to even experiment in the first place. Most of us, we've got jobs. We've got bills we need to pay. We have families we need to support, right? We're still in that accumulation and savings mode, right? And hopefully at some point, you can fire your boss one day, and ultimately that money will be a tool for you to be financially independent and to have that financial freedom to experiment in phase 3 and phase 4. So they are somewhat related. But what I'm saying is begin to think about these things. Don't just wait until you get to retirement in order to start thinking about what your purpose is going to be down the road. Begin to explore even in phase 3 while you're working. Okay. Maybe you're doing a job that you feel like you like certain aspects, but you're like, there's got to be a different way to do these things. And if I only had financial independence, I could pursue it that way. Maybe it's the entrepreneurship factor, or maybe it's coaching or teaching or mentoring, or maybe it's even content creation. I don't know what it is. I don't know what your gifts are, but everyone has gifts. We all have gifts. And I think Lee Corso shows us that what is possible when you keep reinventing yourself in retirement. Retirement should not be the end of the story. It should be a chance to rewrite or write your best chapters yet. So don't only think about the money side of retirement. Obviously, the money side is important, but think about your purpose in retirement. But more importantly, begin doing this now. Don't wait until you've entered phase 2 to begin to think about these things, because some retirees never get out of that phase. Okay. And listen, if you're in a spot where you're like, hey, Kevin, I need to think about my purpose, or you know what, I have a purpose in retirement, but I also need some help with the financial aspects too. But listen, we'd love to help you with this. This is what we do day in and day out. Okay. And we'd love an opportunity to help you achieve financial independence so you can maximize your retirement income and pursue that purpose, pursue that passion that you want to pursue. So if you're interested in learning more about working with our firm, you could just visit our website, www.imaginefinancialsecurity.com, or you could just simply start with the retirement readiness questionnaire that is linked in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you, see how we can help you with your retirement planning journey. And make sure to check out Dr. Moynes' book. Listen, I haven't read it yet. There's a couple others that I'm reading now, but it is on my list. The 4 Phases of Retirement. Highly recommend checking that out, or even maybe start with the TED Talk. Okay, because his TED Talk, obviously, he's the one that did the research. He could probably break it down even better than I can. But hopefully this helps to sort of get the basics in terms of what he was outlining in those 4 phases. And hopefully you can begin thinking about how that applies for your journey in planning for retirement. Just a quick update. I mentioned that we were doing a little YouTube giveaway. Okay, for those of you that follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel, you still have a chance to win. Okay. All you need to do are the things that I asked in that YouTube video. So check out the YouTube video, but I'm going to be announcing the winner the winner and the runner-up. There are going to be 2 folks that are going to get a little something. So the winner and the runner-up this Thursday. Okay. And with that said, I received a ton of great comments in that YouTube video section. So what we're going to be doing next week is I'm going to be doing a rapid fire Q&A session using those exact questions that were asked in the comments section of that YouTube video. So thank you all for participating in this. That was super, super helpful, and it was a lot of fun as well. And we're looking forward to announcing the winner and the runner-up this upcoming Thursday. So thank you all for tuning in this week. Thank you for your time, and I will see you all next week.